What's up, guys? Onlydaz here. It's a video that's been requested quite a bit, and it's something I never really thought about doing, but something I feel like would be quite fun to do, and something I could keep up at least like 6 monthly, maybe something along those lines. So this one will be the sort of second half, I guess, of 2023. So in this video, we're just going to go over essentially the builds that I'm currently favoring on the killers that I'm currently favoring. I go through a phase of just cycling through sort of like a cluster of killers that I switch between. I do call myself a variety killer main because I don't necessarily stick to one killer for more than 2 to 3 games. I do find it tough to do, and I like using different powers and sort of mixing it up on my stream. So as far as killers that I'm currently cycling through, I'm going to go over those, go over the builds that I'm currently favoring with them, and things that I get value from. Granted, I don't believe myself that I'm that fantastical of a killer that you should really care about the builds that I'm using or that they have any weight behind them or value behind them, but at the same time, they do get me a lot of success. Now, recently, I've been streaming, say, 3-4 days a week, 3-4 nights a week, and for the past couple of months, I think it was insane. I went so long without a loss for a very, very long period of time, and even within those, I might end up losing like one because a chat, like a viewer requests a killer in a certain build to try out and stuff like that, and we end up getting just like a 1 kill or sometimes just clutching like a 2 kill kind of thing. But most of my games when I'm switching between the killers I use most efficiently and the builds that I'm currently favoring were mostly 3k and 4k in consistently without really like questioning it or batting an eyelid and realizing how impressive of a feat it really is as far as how well the survivors play these days, how efficient they are at top MMR, and also how powerful the builds are that they're currently using as well. So something is going on with the builds that I'm using. They are being effective, they are working for me, and hopefully they'll work for you guys and something you could sort of look to eventually grab the perks for. I do want to say quickly before we do dive in, please subscribe to the channel if you haven't and you're just checking this video out of nowhere. At 1,000 subscribers, I'm hoping to launch a new project to do with Dead by Daylight that I'm really excited for and really want to get rolling, and I'm hoping to sort of just kick my ass into gear at 1,000 subscribers and sort of convince myself to just put fucking everything into that basket essentially. So if you don't subscribe to the channel already, please do. If you haven't, tell your friends, subscribe to the channel, and let's push for that 1k mark, guys. I'd really appreciate it. All right, let's dive in. All right, for this part, I figured I'd position myself here, nice and comfortable, nice and cozy, and we get a good look at the game screen as well. All right, guys, I'm gonna position myself here so we get a good look at the killer, good look at the killer perk screen. I'm kind of in the midway, you know, sitting comfortable so you can see me. Here we go. Sadako, Omrio, whatever you want to call them. I think Sadako massively benefits from the iridescent videotape add-on. It's probably her most crucial add-on and most effective add-on. If you can get that, amazing. If not, you can always divert to bloody fingernails, increase the duration of projections, bonus movement speed from the TV. That's fantastic to me because you get a lot of ambushes where they don't expect you to speed up out the TV and get the hit before they can vault a window or whatever after interrupting their heal. The idea of this build is to keep people injured all of the time as much as possible by using Sloppy Butcher, which makes them kind of hesitate and refrain from healing themselves because it's a big waste of a med kit. If they do get a second person to heal them, they're going to spread that condemned to that second person, and that's now 2 people worrying about getting a tape and getting to a TV and that kind of thing. So all of this is essentially stopping them doing generators, or at least prolonging it more than it usually would. With Sloppy Butcher, that's going to make the heals take longer. It's going to make them ideally want someone else to heal them because the medkit's going to go to waste pretty quickly if they've got a lot of charges on there as well. It's going to deplete those charges. Barbecue, still, to me, very crucial for this build, and I get so much value out of it. The ability Sadako has to spread pressure around the map and keep just going back and forward. With Barbecue, it's such a huge help. Now, Distortion's obviously a factor, but usually you're going to end up seeing at least one person on Barbecue on most maps. So you can always injure somebody, teleport away with a TV, injure somebody else, teleport away, injure somebody else. That's kind of something you want to go for as early as possible. Even if you go for, like, say, the third person to injure them and they're part of a pretty tough chase, you can always then teleport back to a TV where you kind of hit the person before and they might be healing. A lot of times you'll catch the nurse's call in value and you'll be able to interrupt that heal. Usually it'll be 2 people healing, might be able to smack a healthy guy, injure them. And then eventually when you do get a hook, a lot of the time I'll catch people on Barbecue healing each other. If not, we'll catch them on a gem. Then we fire out a TV and put the chase on those guys. The other guys have to unhook, and it's just constant pressure. I find that I'm able to put a lot of pressure on the map with barbecue in play and have constant awareness of who's where and who I can hit next. And there's not much downtime between chases at that point, which I really like. Nurse calling, again, crucial with Sloppy Butcher in this build, just because of the fact that when you do teleport to a TV, the amount of times you'll catch people just healing in a corner or healing each other and stuff like that, it's great to interrupt. I did for a while run a different perk instead of Face of Darkness, and you could probably switch this up. You could probably switch up to another perk that may cause exhaustion or something from healing, or, you know, Septic Touch, stuff like that. For me, I enjoy Hex Face of Darkness. Again, it gives them kind of a secondary objective. Like, they probably don't want to go and pursue cleansing this totem because it is bloody hard, but at the same time, if they're not cleansing it, you get constant value and aura reading of where they are, and it interrupts their healing as well, which is good for Sloppy Butcher. It just gives like an extra second or two on the heals sometimes, which can be quite crucial. It's constant knowledge of where somebody is, and yeah, it also interrupts generators, which is quite nice. Again, only 1 to 2 seconds, but I find I do get value from it. I actually got value a couple of times when someone goes to put a tape into the TV. Face of Darkness has procced, made them scream, stopped them putting the tape in, and then I've hit them, and it's given them condemned. So there's definite value to that. You know, those sort of quick tape inserts can get interrupted by it, but that's a very, very niche scenario. That's the build I'm enjoying a lot at the moment on Sadako. I have experimented with like totem builds and stuff along that line with Face of Darkness, with other totems to cleanse. Works okay, but without Sloppy, it's a bit dicey, to be honest with you. All right, Huntress is one I don't use super often, but every time I use Huntress these days, I really, really enjoy this build. It's actually not brilliant for like 4King or, you know, dominating the Survivor team essentially, but I get a lot of fun out of this build. So using Midwich is pretty much this whole build is like structured around, but you can get value on other maps anyway. It's just pure aura reading, but with undetectable Huntress, and you can get some decent value from it. Essentially, the add-ons that we run grants undetectable for 30 seconds after reloading, and reveals the auras of survivors hit by hatchets for 5 seconds, which does allow you to get some really cool follow-up shots. If you end up getting a snipe across the map, you get some really cool follow-up shots, seeing exactly where they're running, and you could throw the hatchet ahead of where they're running. Really, really good value to me. Combining that with Darkness Revealed, anytime you search a locker, the auras of all survivors within 8 meters of any other lockers are revealed. You can usually get a lot of aura off that. Lethal Pursuer is going to extend the aura readings by like 2 seconds as well, which is really handy for your Glowing Concoction add-on and Darkness Revealed and Barbecue as well. Iron Maiden just makes opening lockers that much quicker, reloading that much quicker, giving you the undetectable status effect that much quicker, and giving you a Darkness Revealed value that much quicker as well. And in that, obviously, again, Barbecue and Chili allows for those really fun long-range snipes if you can hit them, and gives you that aura. But yeah, on Midwich specifically, it's really, really fun because you can get a lot of like down the long corridor snipes. People running past windows and stuff like that. When you get their aura, you can sort of lead the hatchet and get really fun like long range shots through the windows and down the corridors and all that kind of stuff. So really fun build that I highly recommend. A lot of people like to throw an iridescent head or iridescent hatchet into this build, undetectable with iridescent hatchet, and you can definitely get a lot of value from that too, especially with all the aura reading, and you just sneak up on somebody and smack them with an iridescent hatchet and down them. It's pretty fun. So you can always switch that out for undetectable, keep Wooden Fox, and then switch out the concoction for iridescent head. And it's a pretty fun one because you're constantly opening the locker to reload, which means you're always going to get your Darkness Revealed, and you're always going to get your undetectable as well. So you're basically always going to be undetectable, which is quite a bit of fun. All right, so with this build on Freddy, again, one of the most underrated killers in my opinion. I think Iridescent Paintbrush is like 100% crucial to this build, and without it, it's kind of hindered, but it still works okay. And I still get some good 3K value and stuff like that out of it at a high level, so I can't sneeze at it too much, but Red Paintbrush is so fucking good for this build. If you don't have Red Paintbrush, you can pretty much go with most other things. Like, Freddy doesn't have that many good add-ons anymore, unfortunately. Pill Bottle, I think, is really, really decent for getting those ambushes and those sneak attacks. And we have Jump Rope's pretty good for sounds of grunts of pain being louder. Or you can go with pretty much anything. Like, Chains are not bad for footsteps being louder. Stuff that gives you value. You can go with blindness if they hit a dream snare, that kind of stuff. But Freddy and people being in a dream world is so crucial, but so many people just wake each other up and get out of dream world ASAP, fail a skill check, that kind of stuff. Iridescent brush means that all survivors start the trial in a dream world, so your first chase can get value from dream snares immediately. You're obviously undetectable and unseeable as much as well. So, and then you've got the failed skill checks don't wake people up from the dream world, which is pretty crucial. And then, yeah, Nancy's Masterpiece, decreased dream projection cooldown by 3% for each survivor in a dream world. So you get at least like 12% decreased cooldown if all 4 are in the dream world, which is really good with Iridescent Paintbrush. For this build, we go with Hex Devour Hope. We go with Hex Face of Darkness. We got Hex Retribution and Hex Plaything. A lot of people ask me, why is Plaything on Freddy? It makes no sense. It's a bit stupid. You know, people are already oblivious against Freddy. They might be right, and I might be wrong. But it's something that just keeps working for me. And I think the reason it works for me is most people don't even bother cleansing the totems on this build for, like, the first 3 generators. The first 3 generators and the first kind of couple of chases and hooks, they don't really give a shit about cleansing totems, right? And because of that, they get unhooked. And I've actually watched somebody, like, on a stream against my Freddy, against this build, get unhooked, and they go, Plaything, that's weird, that's stupid, what an idiot. And they start carrying on working on the gens. By that time, we've got 2 or 3 stacks of Devour Hope basically almost hitting, and now we've got a Devour Hope in play. And what tends to happen is Face of Darkness continues to proc, because I'll always, like, keep somebody injured, teleport to a gen, go after someone else, make them heal. If they do heal and I've hit someone else, I'll teleport to another gen. That hit and run can work, or it can work against you sometimes in that they heal so fast and you get no value and the gens keep getting done. So it's important very early to decide when to commit to a chase at the right time and get a hook ASAP just to get that pressure. Because sometimes I've ended up hitting running a bit too long and it does cost me. So it's quite a fine balance. Once you get that first hook, it's quite nice because you've got 1 Devourer on the way. You've got a Plaything that they're going to worry about. That's on the map, right? Then what's going to happen is when you get like your second hook, you got 2 stacks of Devour, maybe 2 or 3 gens are getting done. It looks dicey. Once Devour Hope hits and you down somebody, they've got like Plaything totems all over the map. They've got Retribution totems, and Face of Darkness is probably kicking in. So while they're cleansing a Plaything totem or a Retribution totem, they're oblivious either way on the Retribution one. Plaything, they're also oblivious like fully, regardless, even if you're right next to them kind of thing, where they would be like in terror radius. So Face of Darkness can interrupt, and it'll interrupt them cleansing the totem, and it'll interrupt them, and it makes them start again on the totem cleanse, which is great. And a lot of times they end up spending time, and other survivors will find each other's Playthings, and they'll think, oh, we're cleansing Devour now, this is great. And every time they cleanse a Plaything, I get a Retribution value. And Retribution reveals survivors for 15 seconds after they cleanse a totem. It reveals all survivors. So it gives me so much aura. It gives me so much reading. And I can easily ambush people that are on totems and might have gotten interrupted by Face of Darkness. And I can easily know where they're running. Catch them in a lot of like ambush spots where I just know where they're all going at all times, essentially. And if somebody's on a hook as well, and a totem gets cleansed, I could see if I need to move away from the hook, if I need to go and pursue someone that might be cleansed and devour, if I can hang around the hook, if someone's nearby the hook, if no one's going to unhook anytime soon, and I can pursue this chase, and it's, you know, they're going to go to second stage. It's so much info. And because there's so many Playthings, a lot of the time it does hide Devour. It masks it. And I at least usually get like 2-3 downs maybe with Devour before they eventually find it and cleanse it. And I've gotten so many Devour Hope Moris and so much Devour Hope value from this build. So there's probably an argument that Plaything could be switched to like Thrill of the Hunt or something. There might be more value in that, but that does give me a lot less Retribution. And while survivors are cleansing Plaything after Plaything after Plaything to cleanse Devour, it's so much time spent, so much time wasted, and so much distractions from generators that I'll usually get a 5-stack Devour Mori before they cleanse it. And then when they cleanse it, we're down to 3, and essentially it's just a much easier game for me anyway. It's a much easier game, and it's provided enough distraction, enough panic, and a kill as well. So especially if we end up getting that 5-stack Devour kill on somebody who's not even been hooked yet. So it does get me a lot of value. I win a lot of games with this build. I'm fully open to suggestion on what I could change and why Plaything's a bit stupid, but while it consistently gets me value, I've not had any issue or any reason to change it just yet, and it works so well. It's crazy. Very surprising how well it works. There is another build of Freddy that I really, really love. Endgame Freddy build that I use a lot. And it's going to look pretty weird to you at first, but again, for some reason, it always ends up working out. But you do have to play a very specific way. So those of you that are opposed and believe that tunneling and everything else like that is toxic, cover your ears, pause the video, skip past this section, whatever you want to do. But for those of you that aren't averse to it sort of thing, then this one's for you. But yes, Endgame Freddy. Any endgame build massively, massively benefits from you having somebody dead earlier rather than later, right? Any endgame build massively benefits from you having 3 people left at the end rather than 2. It's just hugely beneficial. So what we want to do is, in this build, I will have on the black box, which is recently opened exit gates are blocked for 15 seconds. We all know how much survivors like to 99 those generators and stuff to cleanse NOED. We'll get into that. But it's a very, very fun add-on, and getting value from this add-on feels like the best thing in the world. It's incredible. Class Photo is here for me specifically for my gen slow and game slow. So this could, again, arguably, Class Photo for me that I really, 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 really love is essentially survivors don't know which gen you're teleporting to. You can't interrupt it and you can't cancel it, but what it does do is it slows the game enough, and I get so much value from it because what essentially happens is every time you hook a survivor, you can choose which generator you would definitely teleport to, but while you do that, every other generator spews blood, and it doesn't show the Nightmare's projection. So it doesn't show that he's coming out of the gen, so they actually don't know which generator he's teleporting to, and it could be theirs, right? So the idea is, if you get somebody in a hook and you gen teleport, you can either gen teleport far away to where you know someone is working on the gen, you might have seen it, you might have heard it, whatever, and you've sort of got an idea that you can get another chase immediately there. Brilliant, right? You could do that if you want to and spread the pressure around. Ultimately, when it gets down to the wire and you're at a position where you need to get somebody dead, what you can do with it is when you hook somebody, you can actually just teleport to a gen nearby, like very nearby the hook or on the way to a hook where you think a survivor might be coming from. That means that you get the Class Photo value. So most people, not everyone, most people, a lot of the time, will let go of their gen just in case you are coming, and Dead Man Switch kicks in. And so many times I'll get Dead Man Switch on like 3 different generators, which is always blocking like 3 gens for 30 seconds. While those gens are blocked, those survivors don't really have anything else to do, so more than likely they will start crowding the hook, they will start coming towards the hook, they will start coming for the saves and making silly plays because they're bored and they can't do the generator they were working on. To me, it gets a lot of value, and it really helps me slow the game down when it might not be going too well. Once we've got, like I said, to about 3 or 2 gens left, and we've got somebody we probably could get dead, the idea is Dead Man Switch is going to come in, block generators, and we can sort of zone the hook and return to hook from the gen we teleport from and get a lot of value. At some point, you're going to probably want to get somebody dead. So if the game's not going your way, you're going to probably want to tunnel somebody and just hope that Class Photo can get you enough Dead Man Switch value to slow the game down. I've seen people switch Dead Man Switch out for Deadlock, which is a perfectly valid argument, and then switch Class Photo for something else. It's something I've not explored, but it's because it's something that still just gets me a lot of value. But there's definitely an argument there. Like, you could probably just switch Class Photo here for any other add-on, switch Dead Man Switch for Deadlock, or you can go all balls to the wall and go full endgame build if you wanted to, and switch this to something else towards endgame kind of thing, you know what I mean? Have no gen slow, but I don't recommend that. Gens go very fast because Freddy chases could take quite a while. What ends up happening is, because Remember Me is in play, and No Way Out is in play, and NOED is in play, you essentially, when the end game pops, you should ideally have just 3 survivors left, 2 maybe, if you've done brilliantly well. And at that point, NOED is an absolute fucking shit show. Like, it's terrifying. You get a NOED down, totem reveals itself, sure, but eventually, after all the damage is done, No Way Out pops, in which you should have a good few stacks on, 3 maybe, let's say. Good few stacks on No Way Out, and then Remember Me will also have a lot of stacks as well. And now that Remember Me has been buffed, it's even better. So yeah, 24 additional seconds on the exit gate is just this terrifying, like, epitome of let me out, get me out of this nightmare. This is terrifying, right? And eventually, if it all goes tits up, the door takes ages to open, and when it does open, the exit gate is blocked for 15 seconds. That's actually enough time for 2 hits, a down, and a pickup, which is brilliant. There's the argument for switching out something for Blood Warden, whatever you want to do, but typically the exit gates will be unblocked by the time that happens. So Yeah, a lot of times you run up to the gate, the survivors will be healing, they're really cocky, it's at 99%, there's 2 of them, let's say, maybe no edge cleanse as well. They'll always open that gate and run out, teabags on the way out. You always get time for 2 hits and a pickup, which is brilliant, because then you can secure a 3 kill most of the time. 4 kill if it's a bonus and they don't do very well at cleanse and no-ed, or you get a hook next to no-ed at the end game. And as you approach the gate with the other survivor trying to leave, you've got no-ed, the exit gate's blocked for 15 seconds, you get the down, you get the hook, and typically get a 4K. So really, really fun Freddy build. No way out, no-ed, remember me, and Deadman Switch. Like, really fun build. Combined with the black box, class photo gets a lot of Deadman Switch value. And at the end of the day, if they don't respect Deadman Switch, or sorry, if they don't respect class photo in a gen teleport, you'll typically get a hook as well. So really fun build as well to consider with Freddy that I've been using a lot. We're going to run through Pig here, and at the moment, my go-to Pig build is Crate of Gears, Bag of Gears. This increases the reverse bear trap setting speed by 50% and then 50% again, so 100% total, and then it increases the time required to search a jigsaw box by a total of 50%, so 50% extra time to search a jigsaw box. While that's going on, Sloppy Butcher is going to make people stay injured for longer, combined with Face the Darkness, which is going to make them scream every 25 seconds, revealing their position and auras for 2 seconds. That scream interrupts and makes them restart taking a trap off their head at a box. So if they scream at a box, it interrupts and makes them start again on the trap, which is brilliant. Again, you could sort of have Crate of Gears and Tampered Timer on here if you're feeling crazy as well. That's an extra 20 seconds off the trap. It's dicey. If you're going to do that, you do kind of want to pursue and punish people trying to remove the trap. Whereas with this build, you can kind of let it ride, and it's so much time waste, like with them trying to get the trap off the head, that it slows gens down by an incredible amount. Thrill of the Hunt is there for if they eventually do want to cleanse Face of Darkness and get rid of it because they get a bit sick of it, or they just stumble upon Hex Thrill of the Hunt and go, you know what, let's get rid of this totem. Face of Darkness interrupts it and they go, oh, this must be a good totem. They don't want it to be cleansed, and you can keep kind of hounding the totem and pretending it's like Devour Hope or something, you know, like something really strong, and you don't want them to cleanse it. You can kind of keep hounding it and make them like really want to cleanse it, and you end up in this back and forward war. And then Pentimento is there if they do end up cleansing Thrill or Face of Darkness. You got your Gen Slow Pentimento. If they do cleanse Thrill, you still got Face of Darkness interrupting Pentimento cleanses and the traps being removed. There is an argument again, and something I've done before, instead of Pentimento, putting on Hex Third Seal, which gives them blindness, and you can utilize slugging people with the traps on their head and slugging them out the box, so it's more stressful and they take way longer to get the traps off the head because they have to wait to be picked up, and that, you know, vice versa. Or you could switch out Thrill of the Hunt for Third Seal, and eventually they are going to want to cleanse it, and you do get your Pentimento value. So there's definitely a couple of perks you could switch there, but this for me is like such a good tormenting build, because Face the Darkness mixed with Pig being undetectable means you get a lot of scream value and a lot of traps being interrupted while taking them off their head, and it's a very torturous build, especially if you return to boxes that people are doing when they scream and chase them off it or down them. And again, typically I just like to down them and slug them there, because if you hook them, it's such a big sort of calling card to the other survivors. But if you slug them, they're on the floor, they have to go get picked up, then they either choose to heal or get a trap off their head. Most of the time they choose trap, and then again you can return and be a nightmare as well if you want to, back to the box as well. So really fun build. I enjoy it a lot at the moment. I will sometimes switch out Bag of Gears just for a Tampered Timer, just for added bit of fun and pressure in the box as well. So Spirit build I'm enjoying at the moment uses Mother-Daughter Ring and the amulet. This amulet here, I think they are nerfing Spirits add-ons pretty hard very soon, so maybe get this build in while you can. But Nurse's Calling, Sloppy Butcher, Septic Touch, and Save the Best for Last. For me, Save the Best for Last on Spirit is amazing. If you specifically just avoid the Obsession and just go for the other 3 players, it's brilliant, because the Obsession is always trying to stay healthy, and Obsession always ends up trying to heal these people. And essentially, when you get a Nurse's Calling value, typically a lot of time with my phase, I'll half phase, so I'll half use the power to get somewhere, look around for Nurse's Calling, then use the rest of the half to get there and ambush them with a hit, basically. With that, when the heal is actually interrupted as well, like when it's interrupted, they suffer from the exhausted status effect, and they suffer from blindness. So if the Obsession is actually hitting the person that's like slow, that's injured, healing them, sorry, you can hit them, slug them, and then you can essentially go after the Obsession because they've not got any lithe or they've not got anything else anymore. You can get a cheeky hit in there, Sloppy Butcher on them. Even if you don't pursue their down, at least it now gives them a reason they've got to go and heal themselves, and it's like a distraction, right? You only lose 2 stacks, so it's not too bad. But essentially, Save the Best for Last. When you build up stacks on Spirit and you phase and you get a hit, the speed at which you can rephase, or the speed at which you can pursue that chase or hit the second survivor that was with them and healing them, is really, really fun. And it creates this really cool snowball effect. And as long as, again, you just pursue the people that aren't the obsession and get mad stacks of save the best for last, get them all dead, and then the obsession can either get the hatch or you do what the hell you want with the obsession at the end. But it's no big deal. You got your 3 kill. It's very much a 3 kill build, to be honest with you. A lot of survivors are going to call you up for tunneling, but for some reason people forget that save the best for last basically requires tunneling. Like, it is a tunneling build, you know? Here's the Legion build. I've done a video on it already. I've done a video on solo queue destroyer Legion build, so I don't have to dive too much into this one, luckily. But if you haven't seen that video, this is by far my favorite Legion build at the moment. You know, barring like iridescent button and an aggressive like pallet chase build, this is a really fun build, and you get so much value. Like, it's so hard to play against, I find. So you got Legion pin survivors who mend themselves. They suffer from deep wound. Sorry, if they mend their deep wound, they're inflicted with broken for 60 seconds, so they can't heal or be healed for 60 seconds. That's great. And people who are hit by feral slash are inflicted with oblivious for 60 seconds. That's crucial because the amount of times you can return to a person that you've slashed while they're mending or just back on a generator and actually ambush them is great. I get so much value from that oblivious. If you decide to return to someone, say if you decide that as you chase with feral instinct or killer instinct, you're not going to get another feral frenzy hit, come out of it and return to where you've just hit somebody. The amount of times you catch them off guard and down them is incredible. Third seal's in play, so if you could apply 4 stacks of third seal fast with your frenzy, brilliant. What you could do at that point is if you do get 4 stacks of feral frenzy pretty quickly and you return to somebody that you have feral slashed and they are oblivious and you down them, what you can do is actually just leave them slugged, because the rest of the survivors have no idea where they are, and you can use them as a scapegoat. Again, pretty vicious, sounds harsh, but you can use them as the guy that's just unfortunately the martyr here. Going to lie on the floor, not progressing gens, not cleansing totems, not contributing to the game, and other survivors have no idea where they are. Unless they're in a communicating Discord call or whatever, most of the time they won't know where the fuck they are, and it'll be really hard to find them, and it wastes a lot of time trying to pick them up. That guy you can commit to bleeding out for the game if they do end up essentially not getting picked up by the team. If they do end up losing a lot of health on the floor, you can make that guy your martyr essentially and slug them. But you don't have to slug with third seal. It still gets value when you put them on hooks and stuff on the corners of the map and survivors don't pay attention to where they were hooked. Like, third seal's still fun. And again, it just makes them want to go and cleanse totems, which is crucial because Etched Ruler makes them oblivious, Face the Darkness out of your terror radius makes them scream, and Thrill of the Hunt makes the totems take bloody ages to cleanse. And screaming from Face of Darkness will often interrupt these totem cleanses and make them way, way longer, giving you time to go over there and feral slash them again, making them mend again, and making them then start to cleanse the totem again, and trying not to scream while cleansing it. So it's a lot of fun. Pentamento's there, because if they do get third seal, bam, Pentamento. Thrill of the Hunt's in play, Face of Darkness in play. If they do end up getting Thrill of the Hunt, bam, another Pentamento. Makes the healing longer. Or just keep it at 1 stack for 30% gem regression on the progress, and Face of Darkness again interrupts them cleansing that as well. So it's a nightmare build. It's a nightmare build for Legion. Very, very strong, very powerful, and very, very enjoyable to play. So I highly recommend it. The only other one I would go for here, essentially, is a aggressive chase like Pallet Legion. This has an interchangeable perk or two, but the premise of this one would be iridescent button. When you vault a pallet during a frenzy, it breaks the pallet immediately. If you get stunned while you're in Feral Frenzy, it refills your Feral Frenzy immediately. So the idea with this one is you could just eat pallets for breakfast, basically. And if chases go well, you can get through a lot of pallets really early in the game, making it really hard and later in the game. And then in that sense, with the build, we have Enduring, which makes you stun obviously a lot faster. You quickly Frenzy and vault the pallet and break it and get a Frenzy chain going again. We have Bamboozle for when you've broken loads of pallets, or you're in a chase and they've dropped the pallet, you vaulted over it, they vault a window, you block it, you fatigue, and then you can down them there. Spirit Fury for eventually when they drop too many pallets on you, and you've broken so many pallets, that builds up with Iridescent Button. You could tank the pallet hit with Spirit Fury and you can get the down. Blood Echo, to me, is probably one of the most interchangeable perks, depending on how fast they heal each other, and if they do actually try and heal each other. They do suffer from Exhausted for 45 seconds. That fully cancels out Made for this. It fully cancels out Dead Hard, Lithe, Balance Landing, like all those exhaustion perks that are nightmarish for Legion, Sprint Burst included. nightmarish for Legion to go against. It cancels all of them out for 45 seconds as long as the people are injured. This one, though, especially now after the buff, you can actually switch this one out for coup de grace, which gets insane value. So with Legion, you can often fatigue and then coup de grace lunge and get a hit before somebody gets to a pallet or something. When you're at a loop, you can obviously just stop them getting to a pallet if you choose to as well, or a window kind of thing. Coup de grace does get a lot of value on this build, and it really drives home that aggressive chase. You could switch Blood Echo for that, or you could realistically switch Bamboozle for that, to be honest. You could switch Bamboozle for Coup de Grace and keep Blood Echo in play, which again, if they're exhausted and you've got Coup de Grace lunge, you've got 2 stacks each time a gen gets done. It's pretty handy and does secure a lot of downs before windows and stuff like that, especially with Blood Echo in play and they're exhausted, you know? Moving on to Plague, and thank you very much if you're still with me, and being ever so inclined and interested in these builds. I was going to show gameplay of these builds, but it'd just be a ridiculously long video. And I'm pretty sure I have gameplay of all these different sort of builds in action throughout the various videos on my channel, so that may be worth checking out either way. So with this build, we have Rubbing Oil, which has increased the charge rate of Vile Purge and Corrupt Purge. That just allows us to go sick a lot faster. It helps in chases without and with Corrupt Purge as well. It helps us charge up the sick a lot faster and gives survivors less time to react to dodging it, essentially. And we have Hematite Seal, which increases object infection duration by 30 seconds. 30 seconds on something being infected is brilliant, because it almost certainly means survivors are going to get bored and touch that generator that you've infected, and it's just going to ultimately, inevitably, mean that they are going to get infected. Now, Thanatophobia is on this build, somewhat controversially. It's basically a terrible perk. It's actually terrible. And against most high-level teams, this won't phase them, and they will just push gens out ASAP, because they'll probably have resilience and prove thyself, and we're actually helping them get these gens done faster here. So Thanatophobia is, again, one of those perks that you can kind of change out. You could change this out for Dying Light and something along those lines, or even like Deadlock or something like that, to be honest, wouldn't go amiss. For me, against teams that aren't super high level and super optimal and super efficient, which are just going to come and go. Against other teams, this does push a lot of people to cleanse. If you've got a mix of teammates, maybe 2 that want to cleanse and 2 that don't want to cleanse and don't care about Thana, it does make 2 cleanse at least, which does put, you know, again, time waste. They're not doing gens while they're cleansing. Gives you more Corrupt Purge value. And eventually they just get reinfected because they unhook someone that's infected who refuses to cleanse, or they touch a gen that is also infected. So, and if they don't want to touch a gen, then they're not doing gens, which is great for these other perks. Classic gen slow perks. Nowhere to Hide gives great value if you've got Corrupt Purge and you walk up to a gen. Give it a kick and get yourself a Corrupt Purge value if someone's hiding and scared of the sick. But also gives you good idea of knowing if someone's waiting around at the gen. You go sick on that gen. You can either then pursue that chase with that person or just leave them, because ultimately when you walk away, they're going to touch the gen and get infected. And ideally, you want all people infected at all times, which gives you a corrupt value, your Corrupted Purge. Pop Goes the Weasel is there. When you do get a hook and you get down to a 3 or 4 gen situation left, Pop Goes the Weasel gets incredible value when it's about 70 or 80%, because it loses 30% of its current progress, which is brilliant. And then that combined with Eruption means that every time you do down someone with Corrupt Purge and everything else that you have erupted and used Nowhere to Hide and got that value, Pop Goes the Weasel got that value, it then regresses by another 10%, explodes, and gives you the aura of people that were repairing it for 12 seconds, which is great, because if they run away from that gen in a panic, you can get Corrupt Purge, know where they're going, and chase them down with it. So really fun gen slow build, and it gets a lot of pressure, and again, constant 3Ks with this build, 3K, 4Ks, so use it as you wish. This is one of my favorite Oni builds. This build is something somebody suggested in chat at some point on the stream called Endless Healing build, and again, while it does sometimes just get absolutely trumped by survivors hard gen rushing with, you know, Prove Thyself and Resilience, you can't really account for that, and you just got to play with your cards that you've got. This build massively benefits from having the other add-on that increases the frequency of blood orbs more than the green one that we've currently got on. I'm going to quickly try and find that in the blood web here if I can, just to show you guys in this video. So I'm going to skip this part. No, here we go. Never mind. Splintered Hull. There it is. So Splintered Hull instead of Wooden Oni Mask. The Wooden Oni Mask is absolutely fine, but Splintered Hull is diabolical. So with this add-on, increases the frequency of blood orbs dropped by survivors by 33%, and they drop an additional blood orb when they vault, throw pallets, exit lockers, crouch, or fail a skill check. Crouching is quite funny. You get a lot of blood orbs from the crouching. With the Bloody Glove, all survivors can see the blood orbs at the same distance, but a survivor's aura is revealed to you for 3 seconds when coming into contact with a blood orb. That is increased to 5 seconds with Lethal Pursuer. Now, you might think, well, survivors could just avoid the blood orbs, but it basically ends up getting to the point where there's so many blood orbs on the map that it's almost impossible for them to avoid. And while they're healing each other, they drop blood orbs and reveal their aura. So it's like a long-distance Nurse's Calling, essentially. If they end up doing it where they... Again, the blood orbs can sometimes fall where they are right on it and it reveals the person healing and not the person being healed, because it usually splashes around the person being healed. If you don't get that value immediately, but you're in your demon rush and you're sprinting around, you'll get value from Nurse's Calling most of the time, where someone's healing and you can see where they're healing and get a demon rush attack on them as well. Nurse's Calling is arguably, again, can be switched up because the idea is that they're going to drop loads of blood orbs and reveal themselves to you while dropping blood orbs and being healed anyway. So that could be across the map as well. So you can see cross-map Nurse's Calling. So there's an argument you could put Barbecue here instead of Nurse's Calling, and that will give you more cross-map when they're not bleeding or being healed. So again, switch that up as you will. Sloppy Butcher is going to make them take a long time to heal, drop more blood orbs, that kind of stuff. And Gift of Pain. If you get a Scourge Hook Gift of Pain popping off, which again, you could switch Nurse's Calling to Scourge Hook Pain Res if you wish, or Scourge Hook Floods of Rage. When they unhook from that hook, you can see if they're stopping to heal or where they're going, essentially. So when a survivor is unhooked, all of the survivors have their auras revealed for 7 seconds. That's 9 seconds with Lethal Pursuer in the game. And you can see if they're healing immediately or if they're running off, which, again, can give you massive value while you're in your Demon Rush. So you can switch Nurse's Calling for Floods of Rage. I've done that before and got an incredible value from it, and at least you get double value from a Scourge Hook then as well. Again, you could double Scourge Hook it up with Monstrous Shrine, and they die faster as you Demon Rush off. That's not a bad shout either. Or yeah, Pain Resonance as well if you wish to do that. So there's definitely options there with Nurse's Calling, but I do like my Nurse's Calling value when I'm Demon Rushing past somebody that's healing, you know, and just spy it, so it's quite nice. The interesting thing about Nurse's Calling as well, is if somebody plot twists, their aura gets revealed to you when they go down, because most of the time, sure, they can end up hitting a blood orb with Splintered Hull, but I've seen it like be revealed to me with Nurse's Calling because they're technically healing themselves. So if they actually plot twist down, because they're technically healing themselves with that ability, it counts on Nurse's Calling, so you could see them on the floor as well, slugged, which is bloody brilliant, I think. At the moment, my favorite Twins build, No Way Out, Forced Penance, Forced Hesitation, and Deadlock. Sounds crazy, but Forced Hesitation actually gets value from Victor. So when you down people with Victor and slug them, it oftentimes stops the survivor that was with them ending up like being able to come over and kick you, which is great, and you can sometimes get double slug from it. But either way, even if you down someone with Victor and they kick Victor, they're still slowed down by 20% for 10 seconds, so you can typically get hit with Charlotte too, or at least it makes them panic a little bit. So it's a good little slowdown, and we get good Forced Hesitation value on Twins. Forced Penance means that if they take a protection hit, so if they block for Victor and stuff like that, that person is broken for 80 seconds, so they usually stay injured for a very long time, giving you the opportunity to down them with Victor and slug them again later on. Deadlock, there to slow the gens down as the game progresses, and No Way Out gives us our end game value, and again, just extra game slow. No Way Out and Deadlock are very, very crucial sort of game slows these days on a lot of killers, and they really benefit from that to just make the game go on a bit longer so you can actually use your abilities, you know? Toy Sword decreases pounce charge time by 0.2 seconds on Victor, which gives the survivors less time to react, and decreasing Victor's unbind time by 5 seconds, or 0.5 seconds, means that, again, if you hit Forced Penance and they've kicked Victor and Forced Hesitation, they've kicked Victor or whatever, you can unbind him again pretty quickly and get back on a slug chase, essentially, or get back on someone who might be healing a slugged survivor now. It just speeds everything along with Victor, essentially. It makes him like a constant threat, you know? This build I currently run on Nemesis gets me a lot of value as well. A lot of 3 kills with this build. You do have to go pretty hard with this build. It does end up being a pretty close matchup if the beginning goes terribly wrong. So there is a massive argument here to, instead of Noed, to throw Lethal Pursuer in with Corrupt Intervention. And that is an argument I fully stand behind and implore you to try out. Lethal Pursuer gives you insane value because you get chased straight away and there's no wasted motion in leveling your tentacle up. This build is purely based around leveling your tentacle up ASAP, getting it to level 3 and tier 3 and constantly making survivors infected. chasing down the vaccines and getting mad value from your tentacle over loops and pallets, and it's always a threat. It's never not a threat. So with the 2 add-ons here, we increase the rate at which tentacle strike it increases the level by 25% for uncontaminated survivors and 75% for contaminated survivors. So that gets you your tentacle level up pretty quick. And also increase the mutation rate when destroying zombies with tentacle by 100%. So if you're on a chase or walking towards a chase or in the middle of a chase and a zombie's there, just give it a smack. They're mostly useless anyway, right? They get value sometimes, but give the zombie a smack with a tentacle anytime you pass them. If you can quickly veer off and smack a zombie, great. That's going to just help that tentacle level up ASAP. Most of the time, because Corrupt is in play, I will often just, the first survivor I see, I'll tentacle strike them again, and that ends up, injuring them. And then the good thing with that, leave them injured and don't cancel your Corrupt intervention. Go and chase somebody else. The one problem is if there's too much downtime in between those 2 chases, the other survivor will use a vaccine and heal up. So as long as you're quick to chase another person and get some more tentacle value, great. If not, it can snowball pretty badly and you've got to really start recouping. But yeah, using Corrupt time as much as possible to level your tentacle as much as possible. Use Corrupt intervention to hold those gens and stop that early game gen rush. Deadlock's also going to slow that down, and then when the end of the game comes and they do finally get those generators powered, they're going to be so worried about your tentacle that Hex Noed comes in, and you end up punching the piss out of them and downing them with punches, and you snowball in the Noed before they can cleanse it. Ideally, you'll have someone dead at that point, and you can use your endgame No Way Out and Noed to cause chaos, and you've got a level 3 tentacle if you need it, and there's all kinds of mayhem. So really fun build, but it really, really revolves around getting that tentacle leveled up ASAP. So yeah, highly recommend that one. So my favorite Pinhead build at the moment, massively relies on Iridescent Box, which is unfortunate when you have to rely on an Iridescent add-on. We don't have it at the moment, but the Iridescent Box hides the aura of the box from survivors unless they're within like a 16-meter range or something small like that. So it makes it way harder for survivors to find the box and takes way longer for them to cancel your chain hunt and find the box. So really, really recommend that add-on if you have it. If you don't have it, you could pretty much switch it out with any other add-ons here. Like, add-ons aren't the massive preference or relating to this build. I like to decrease the time for chain hunts to activate by 6 seconds if I can't do the Iridescent Box. And Impaling Wire just spawns extra chain when survivors use the environment to break a chain. So that's just more pressure on the chains, essentially. The build itself, though, uses Ruin, which is somewhat controversial because Ruin's actually terrible. But it gets quite good value on Pinhead because if they're actively pursuing the box and Chain Hunter's kicking them off the gen, it's just like extra little tickles of regression. When they keep getting chained and pulled off a gen, it's that extra tickle of regression that's really annoying, you know what I mean? It ticks away and sometimes makes them want to go cleanse it. While they're cleansing it, Chain Hunts can activate. They've got the box to worry about. Undying often gets mad value. They cleanse it first and Maroon's in play. While you're doing all these different chases and injuring people, Sloppy Butcher is constantly making it slower for them to heal, which gives time for Chain Hunt to interrupt the heals, gives them worry about, ooh, should I heal? Should I get the box? Should I get the totem? Should I do the gen? 4 things to worry about. It's kind of crazy. Pinhead's good for that. 4 things, 4 objectives technically with a totem build to worry about. Eventually, Ruin might get cleansed, but it is what it is because you've got Pentimento. So if Undying gets cleansed, brilliant. Pentimento, Undying, you've got Ruin and Pentimento. And Sloppy Butcher, making them heal longer. Chain Hunt, stopping them from cleansing totems. It's absolute chaos, and it's a good bit of fun. I get a lot of value from this build, a lot of 3 kills. Highly recommend it. But again, if you can get the Iridescent Box, beautiful. Smack it on probably instead of Torture Pillar, but either way is fine. Iridescent Box massively helps this build and makes it basically unbeatable for most teams. That just leaves us with one more killer left to talk about. My favorite killer right now, and you might notice some similarities here in some of these end game builds that I like to use, but Knight for me is the biggest beneficiary of end game builds. He's incredible. His end game build value is insane because Knight is a killer where if you're playing against the right survivors and logical, knowledgeable survivors, his chases take bloody ages. His chases take such a long time because of how long they run the guards for and all this other stuff. So while you're in the game and you're using guards to kick generators, pressure survivors, chase survivors, guard areas, that kind of stuff, again, there is typically at some point in the game a modicum of tunneling or zoning on a hook that you have to employ. Very annoying to survivors, but Knight has a special ability to send the guards to a generator to put pressure on that generator, chase somebody off the generator, kick the generator if it's about to complete, that kind of stuff. Knight has the ability to do that and still zone a hook, which gets very frustrating for survivors. So use that to your advantage. With the build that we currently have, increase the amount of time a guard will hunt a survivor by 4 seconds. This often results in the assassin pretty much always getting a hit. The assassin doesn't really get a hit usually because he is a little bit faster than everybody, but his chase time's a lot shorter. The time a guard will hunt by 4 seconds is so much extra when you take into account how long the Carnifex already chases for and how long the Jailer chases for too. And the assassin's speed with the extra 4 seconds typically results in them, they're used to a certain amount of chase time, and the extra 4% can catch survivors off guard and end up getting hit by the guard as well. So that's really handy. And increasing the detection range for guards on patrol by 4 meters is massive. For the amount of times the survivors actually dodge away from the zone area when you send a guard out, it's so constant and so frequent. This helps me pretty much always get a guard detection, which is really, really game-changing, to be honest with you. Yeah, really recommend these 2 add-ons, but again, you can feel free to find your own. Deadlock, No Way Out, Corrupt Intervention, No Ed. You might recognize those perks, similar to Nemesis. Corrupt Intervention stops that early game gen rush while you're establishing your chases and, you know, getting your guard hits. And again, this is purely just prolonging the game as long as possible because Knight's chases can sometimes take a very long time. So Deadlock's going to slow the gens down. No Way Out's going to build up as we go. No Ed's going to catch him off guard at the end when you've ideally got somebody dead already. And yeah, we're just going to use those guards to kick gens, chase off gens, zone hooks, and get somebody dead. So really, really fun build. Highly recommend endgame build on Knight, and it's my most successful build so far with Knight. My most successful build. It's constant wins with Knight with this build. That's kind of it, to be honest with you, for this video. That's pretty much all I have to go over with you guys. There's a few killers I dabble in here and there, but with regards to the length of this video, I think it's best I don't dive into them too much because I'm not well-versed, well-adept, or well-experienced with all those killers enough to recommend you something that I think is going to get you a lot of wins. The builds I've recommended in this video get me very, very consistent results, and I highly recommend you use them. With people like Dredge, with people like Skull Merchant, we're not talking about Skull Merchant, but people like Artist, Blight, you know, Deathslinger, Pyramid Head, these killers I dabble in. I've got some builds that do okay, I think, you know, some suggested builds by viewers, Bubba, Doctor here and there. Like, I love these killers. Like, don't get me wrong, I love Doctor, I love Bubba, I love Clown, I like playing them. I like Ghostface, Pyramid Head, Deathslinger, I love playing those guys too. Trickster's in there every now and again. You know, Dredge is in there every now and again. Wesker's in there every now and again, but they are not my most played at all. They are definitely my least played. And the rest of them, like the top 4 up here, 3-gen Trapper I typically go with most of the time. Pallet Breaking Wraith is a fun one, but, you know, I don't think it's brilliant enough to discuss. If you do want to know about it, let me know, but yeah. Hag I don't really play, Billy I don't really play, Nurse I find pretty boring, you know, so there's a lot of killers I sort of don't touch really. There's some I touch a lot less, and there's some I, you know, use a lot more, and the ones I use a lot more I've gone over in this video. The builds that I use, the builds that I recommend, and the builds that get me consistent results and constant victories in the game. So there it is. Hopefully you guys can get value out of this video. Hopefully these builds are something you might not have seen before, might not have considered, and you actually have access to the perks and you could use the builds now. If not, it gives you something to grind for. Highly recommend all the builds in the video. Again, give me consistent wins, consistent 3-4Ks, and just constant value to the point where I've been very, very shocked at how many wins I've been getting in a row without even thinking about it by switching between these different killers. It mixes the game up. It stops me getting bored of just using one power and one killer, and it just helps the gameplay variety essentially on my streams too. So really, really recommend these killers and these builds. Let me know what you think of the builds. If you have any other build suggestions, please drop them in the comments because I'm always looking for new builds to try out, new things to get value from, and interesting builds that I never really would have thought of myself. So yeah, drop those in the comments. That'll be really, really helpful. I'd appreciate it. Please try and get us towards 1,000 subscribers. That would be amazing. I've got a plan again in place for 1,000 subscribers and a new project I'm going to launch to do with Dead by Daylight. So pretty excited about. So please help me get to that goal. That'd be amazing. I love you forever. Like and subscribe, all that good stuff. Leave a comment down below what you think of the builds. If you've used the builds, let me know your results. And if you have any other builds to suggest for any of the killers, then drop them in the comments, and it's stuff I can refer back to on stream and give it a try out as well. Thank you very much for watching the video. Join me on stream if you're feeling like you're up for it. Follow me on Twitch. I do go live most of the time on Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and Sunday every week. have a Discord server, all that good stuff. Until the next video, guys, thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you next time.